Well, the last time I played here was at the Orpheum Theater on Kellogg Street. That was in 1926. They must have liked me because here it is only 58 years later and I'm back. That theater is still there, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
My trunk is probably there, too. It's probably canceled after the first show.
How does your act different now than it was 58 years ago?
Well, I'm a better singer now than I was then. I'm a country singer now.
When did you give up the name Harry Pierce?
Oh, I had all kinds of names, I did. I was Brown of Brown and Williams, and I was Williams and Brown, and I was Brown of Brown and Brown. I was Brown of the Brown Brothers, I was Williams of the Williams Boys. I had all kinds of names. I had to change my name practically every week. I couldn't get a job with the same name twice.
Is it true you changed your name just because you got cards printed up one time from somebody else who went out of show business?
Yeah, you know a lot, don't you? That's a true story. There was an actor called Willie Delight, and he had 1,000 cards printed. And he only stayed in show business about 2 weeks. And he had about 900 cards left. So I bought them for $2 and changed my name to Willie Delight. Didn't make any difference what my name was.
We've got to talk about your movie. You have a new one coming out?
Yeah, I got a movie coming. It's going to be released November the 9th. It's called Oh God, You Devil. It's God and the devil. I play both parts.
Is that hard?
Is that hard?
Hard to play?
Not if they pay you. I've also got a new book coming out, Dr. Behrens' Prescription for Happiness. They paid me to do that, too. If they pay me again, I'll even read it.
What's that?
Dr. Behrens' prescription for what?
For happiness.
What is that?
Buy 2 books and call me in the morning.
Just hit the stands now.
It's hitting the stands right now.
Care to let us in a little bit on what the
This is
the
too
book
much gin for me.
It's just water.
No, I got a good book, funny book. Happiness, you know, who knows.
Can you talk a little about Jack Benny? I know
Sure.
You and Jack were best of friends.
We were, all our lives. And I was able to make Jack Benny laugh, because he would do crazy things. I didn't make him laugh. If you told Jack Benny a joke, he wouldn't laugh. But if he brought up the thing, you know, and you answered, and then if it was funny that way, he'd laugh. Like, he had a party at his house once, about 150 people. And he said to me, he says, George, he says, the party's not moving. I says, the party, people are talking, they're drinking, the party's moving. He says, look, I'm in show business too. I know if a party moves or not. This party isn't moving. So I said, Jack, I'll tell you how to make it move. Why don't you go upstairs and come down with your pants off and your shorts, put on Mary's hat and come down and play the violin. That'll make it. He says, you think? I was kidding him. He says, you think so? I said, sure. So he went up, took off his pants, and I made an announcement. I said, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Benny just went up. He took off his pants, coming down on his shorts, the lady's hat, violin. Don't pay any attention to him. Down he came, 150 people, everybody's talking. From then on, the party moved. And he'd say silly things, like, oh yeah, here's one of the books. There it is. Yeah. Like, I met him at the club. He was always worried about something. He said, I didn't sleep last night. I said, how'd you sleep the night before? He said, the night before I slept great. I said, sleep every other night. If he would bring it up, it would be funny, you know.
Didn't you, there was a story, I think you were in Hawaii with him, and some elderly lady came up and started talking to him, and talked for quite some time after somebody, I think her son introduced.
She was about 90 years old.
Do you remember the story?
Kane. And, well, it's the story. I said, Jack, you've got it made. You got somebody to go to bed with tonight. He didn't. She was too old for him. But that made him laugh. He went to bed with her and she laughed, too. Who knows what would make Jack Benny laugh? It's silly things.
You know, when you think about your career, it's almost amazing. In fact, I think most of us are just probably speechless right now because a living legend has just walked into the room.
I hope I'm a legend, but am I living?
You know, some of us old film buffs remember the Behrens and Allen TV show. That seems like it's been a long time ago, but you worked with W.C. Fields.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a real Fields fan. I love your old films, but I think you did a couple of them. Six of a Kind was one. And I wonder if you can tell any stories about how show business was or how it's changed.
Well, I was a small-time vaudeville actor from 7 to 20. I sang with the Pee Wee Quartet when I was 7. Until I was 27, I did all kinds of acts. I worked with the Seal, I worked with the Dog, I'd work with anybody that would work with me. And then I met Gracie when I was 27, and things started to happen. And we turned out to be a very good combination because I used to be able to think of things off the stage, but I couldn't do them on. And Gracie could do them on. I would think of them, and Gracie could do them, and we turned out to be a very, very, very good team. And then when we made movies at that time, we didn't make movies as characters. We made movies as Behrens and Allen. Like in Six of a Kind, we were Behrens and Allen. In the International House with W.C. Fields, the Behrens and Allen. Tell you Fields' story. Fields did a little scene with Gracie in the International House. And she's hit him with some crazy line that Gracie would. And when she walked away, he wanted a topper. He needed a topper for the line. He couldn't think of anything. And Leo McCarey was the director. He says to Leo, he says, can you think of something when Gracie hits me with that line, something for me to say? And Leo McCarey couldn't think of anything. So I walked over to him. I said, I'll tell you what you do. I said, when Gracie walks away, you got a glass of scotch on the table and a glass of water and a cup of coffee. Why don't you take 2 pieces of sugar, put it in the water, mix the coffee, and drink the scotch? He said, George, from now on, I like Jews. He's got a laugh for him, you know.
Was he really the kind of person you expected him to be? Did he really hate dogs and kids?
Well, he drank a lot. He's a big drinker. And he came to my house once for dinner. And he wore a vest. You have 4 pockets in your vest, and he had 4 bottles of gin in case you ran out of gin at the house. So he came to my house, and he had this gin with him. And I said, Bill, you don't have to carry that gin with you. I've got gin in the house. He called in his driver. He says, Bill, and the driver came in. He says, you can take my vest to him. I'm getting booze from a different source. But he was a very, very funny man. Great comedian.
What do you think of situation comedies today?
Say that again?
What do you think of situation comedies today?
Well, if it works, if the show works, it's good. And anybody I see, if the performance is good, and if the audience likes them, they're great. You know, if the audience don't, good. You know, same thing with situation comedies. I know that they do things today that you couldn't do when I worked with Gracie. You couldn't say hell, you couldn't say damn, couldn't say any of these things. Now you say anything, you know, do anything.
Who are your favorite comedians today?
You mean the youngest? The young comedians like Milton Berle?
Yeah.
and Don Rickles, those kids will make it. No, the young kids today are great. They do it their way, you know. They say anything, they do anything. And I'm reading the Bellucci book. Did anybody read that? Scares the hell out of you.
Mr. Behrens, age has become an issue in the political campaign now, in the presidential race. Do you think that's a legitimate issue?
I don't think so. Ronald Reagan's just a kid. How old is he? He's 74, isn't he? When I was 74, I had Cupid's eczema. 74 is not old. I'm 88. You don't have to get old. I love what you're doing.
Did you ever work with Mr. Reagan?
No, I've been to his house a lot.
Did you ever think of running for president?
Me? If they pay me, I'll do anything. No, I don't get into politics. I don't tell Ronnie Reagan how to run the country, and he doesn't tell me how to sing Red Rose Rag.
Got another question.
All right.
On your old radio show, you had a music director named Meredith Wilson.
That's right.
Same guy that wrote The Music Man, or not?
Yeah,
Is
sure.
it really? Okay.
Also,
This
I
means nothing to anybody else.
had
Mike and
I had Meredith Wilson, I had Paul Whiteman, I had Artie Shaw, I had them all. Gracie and I were on radio for 19 years, and then on television for 8.
Of all the mediums that you've worked in, stage, radio, film, television, what's given you the most pleasure?
I think I'm having a lot of fun now. When I walk out on the stage, the people all stand up. They say, how do you like that? He walks.
Would you recommend any young person to go in? Would you,
Show business?
Yeah.
I think the whole world ought to go into show business. It's a great business. Of course. No other business better than show business. Here I am, 88. And I didn't find any of the... We talked in vaudeville. I talked before I met Gracie. Then we talked in vaudeville. Then we talked on radio. And we talked in television. I'm still talking, so it was very easy for me.
we keep hearing about how much pressure there is in Hollywood and how expensive shows are to produce and
Well,
all the tension these days. Was that evident?
Same
years
thing
ago
when
your
in
show was on?
restaurant today. You go in to buy a meal today, it costs a lot of money. You know, money today, you go into a good restaurant, it costs you $35 to sit down and have dinner. Sure, it costs a lot of money to put on a show. But you get more money today.
A man with your schedule, how do you fit Galesburg, Illinois into it?
Say that again.
A man with your schedule,
Yeah.
how do you fit Galesburg, Illinois into it?
They're paying me. It's simple. From here I go to, where do I go from here? Purdue. Tomorrow, then I go, from there I go to Chicago. I'm there for 2 days, then I go to New York for 4 days, then I go to Vegas for a couple of days. I'm selling my book and my picture right now.
Have you always had this confidence? There was a time when you didn't work up until about 1970.
No, to have, see, I was very fortunate. I had no talent. I loved show business. And I always thought the audience had no talent. They didn't like me, but I liked what I was doing. And I never got nervous because the audience got nervous when I went out there. Then when I worked with Gracie, I didn't have to get nervous. Gracie was the whole act. She got all the laughs. So to get nervous, you got to have talent. I never get nervous.
But there was a stretch there between you and Gracie and then the Sunshine Boys.
Well, how that happened was Jack Benny was supposed to do the Sunshine Boys. And Irving Fine was my manager, was also Jack Benny's manager for 25 years. And when I was 79, I had open heart surgery, a triple bypass. And 10 weeks later, Irving Fine came to me. He said, Jack Benny is supposed to play Florida, and he can't make it. He's not feeling well. Can you go? I said, sure. Went to Florida, and Irving liked what he saw. And he says, I'd like to manage you. I said, let's talk to Jack Benny, see how Jack feels about it. We went to Jack. He says, Jack, you're not working as much as you used to, and Irving Fine is going to manage both of us. He says, great. And then Jack was signed to do the Sunshine Boys. And he passed away. Gone. And Irving took me over to read for the Sunshine Boys with Neil Simon and Herb Ross, the director. And I read 4 or 5 pages. They liked my reading, and I got the Sunshine Boys. And that's the first time I ever played a character. And the Sunshine Boys did a lot for me. Well, in every business, you got to have breaks. Got to have, you know, you got to know your business, but you've also got, those little breaks help a lot. Like I was sitting in Gracie and I went to a party one night at Arthur Lyons' house. We weren't even invited. Jack Benny was invited. He was Jack's agent. And we're sitting there having dinner, and Arthur Lyons came over. He says, Fred Allen's supposed to do a short in Long Island tomorrow. He gets $1,800 to do a short. And he says to Jack, could you go there tomorrow and do 9 minutes? You'll get $1,800. Jack says, I can't go. I can't do it. I said, we'll do it. Gracie and I will go. Never heard of $1,800. We were getting about $400 a week. And we went there the next day, and it was a living room set. Well, our act at that time didn't fit in a living room because we were doing a boy and girl act. We were very young then. I was young once. And we walked into the living room. We had to improvise. And Gracie looked in the ashtrays, looked under pillows, and I said, what are you looking for? She said, the audience. I says, Gracie, you see that camera there? She says, yeah. I says, see the lens in the camera? She says, yeah. I says, if you look in the lens, that's where the audience is. Then I said, Gracie, if we can talk for 9 minutes, we can get $1,800. Do you think you can talk for 9 minutes? She said, ask me how my brother is. I said, how's your brother? And she talked for 9 minutes. And in the middle of the joke, I looked at my watch. I said, wait a minute. You can't finish that joke. Our 9 minutes are up. And I looked in the camera. I said, ladies and gentlemen, we just made $1,800. And that short turned out to be a great short. So there was great break. We happened to go to that party, and we were signed for 4 shorts after that. And, you know.
Your TV show was fantastic in the fact that you would talk to the audience, you would do asides. You'd had a TV set that you could watch some of the action of the other characters.
I used to watch Gracie while she was plotting to do things against me.
Yeah.
When I put the TV set in the show, the sponsor, who was the Carnation Milk, they said, you can't do that. That's out of reality. I said, we're going to do it. You're going to do it. And we did it. And it turned out that they got television sets all over the country now. So I was not only a great writer, but I was an inventor.
Those shows are reruns now, are you?
Yeah.
Are you paid for that?
Oh, yeah, that show. No. I sold that to Columbia Pictures years ago. But they're running in California. I know they're running here.
Running on CBN network.
Are they?
You look younger now.
Well, I'm not.
Harry Von Zell, always close friend, or?
He's dead. In fact, you people are the only people I know that are alive. Harry Von Zell is gone. Harry Von Zell was very good in the show. He was Gracie's friend. He understood Gracie.
Was there a Larry Keating or somebody?
Oh, yeah. Larry Keating. There's Fred Clark. B. Benaderet, who did the Hillbillies.
She was one of the operators on the Benny show, too.
Yeah, that's right. And B. Benaderet was, and Larry Keating, they were Mr. and Mrs. Morton. They were our neighbors.
You've written some great books. The Living It Up, or They Still Love Me in Altoona, happens to be one of my favorite books that I've ever read. And I intend to read another one eventually, but it's really...
Yeah, well, this is a good book.
It's a fine book.
Yeah.
And I wonder, if, just for tape purposes, if you could talk a little bit about Gracie. And you get a little... I don't know how many people actually put pictures of their grandchildren in a book. Ronnie was really your son, right?
Oh, yeah, Ronnie. And I've got 7 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Ronnie
I think
Sanders,
it's
my
very
daughter.
touching. And maybe I don't mean to get real serious here,
Yeah.
but I think the story that you tell about...
Well, Gracie and I had a wonderful marriage. We were married for 38 years. It was a great marriage because we didn't work at it. Marriage was a byproduct of what we were doing for a living. If the audience was great, I was a great lover. If the audience wasn't so good, Gracie wouldn't applaud me. Pretty funny joke I made up just now. No, we had a very, she was a great lady. And Gracie didn't have to make up any jokes. People made it up for her. You know, they knew the character. She'd get in an elevator, say the elevator boy, let me off on the 9th floor. Everybody would laugh. I say she probably wants to go to, she wants to get off at the 5th floor. She'll go to the 9th and walk down 4 floors. You know, they made up all those things. Gracie didn't have to be funny.
What is your prescription for happiness?
When is one?
What is your prescription for happiness?
Well, for instance, I got it going both ways. Here I am, 88, still making movies. I'm a senior citizen. I can see my movies for half the price. That's happiness. How do you weigh happiness? You know, you can't buy it. Happiness if you love what you're doing. You know, the super's hot. That's happiness. If it's cold, send it in. Tell them to heat it up for you. Still happy.
What do you do when you're not working?
Well, I'm always doing something. I go to my office at 10 o'clock. I stay there till 12 with one of my writers. We always got something to write. Then I go to the club, the Hillcrest Country Club. I have lunch. And at 3 o'clock, at 1 o'clock, I play bridge until 3. And I go home, take a little nap, get up at 5:30, have a couple of martinis. And sometimes I do something else.
Too bad we don't have a piano here.
Well, tomorrow night you'll see all my good stuff. I think that joke that I just said about it going 2 ways, I think I'll tell that tomorrow night. That's a good joke, isn't it? I think I will.
When you and Gracie worked together, and she did all these non sequiturs, I guess you had to know the script obviously as well as she did. But did you ever have any times where you were really thrown by something she'd done, or did you ever?
No, Gracie worked very, very, very hard. The scripts were about 40 pages, and Gracie was about 30 pages. And it's very hard to, you know, if you say to somebody, how do you feel? You say you feel fine. I don't feel well. You know, those are the answers. But to Gracie, she's allowed to say anything. I'd say, Gracie, how do you feel? She'd say, look on the floor. Maybe it fell down. Well, that's hard to remember. And Gracie had to remember those things. So she retired. She retired, and in 50. When did she retire, Irving? Is Irving here?
1958.
19 what? 58. She retired and I went into show business because I was retired when I was working with Gracie. I did nothing. I said to Gracie, how's your brother? And she talked for 38 years.
Some of the anecdotes you tell at the end of Living Better, They Still Love Me in L2, about Bilbo the Clown.
Uh-huh.
Everybody had their own little technique for trying to milk applause or trying, to make
Well,
themselves
That was
stand
a
out
trick.
above the rest. right?
Yeah, that was a trick, If you took good bows, you didn't have to have a good act. The bows would bring you out again, and everybody had tricks of taking bows.
So did you do pretty much the thing that you did with Gracie at the end of the TV show, at the end of your act in the theater as well? Where you just came out on stage? and
Yeah,
talked?
yeah, that's what I did.
That was your closing?
Mm-hmm. On the TV show. But on the stage, we'd stay out there for a long time. And Gracie was not a comedian. Gracie was an actress playing the part of that off-center girl, like Lynn Fontaine doing Dulcie. Now, Lucille Ball is a great comedian, and you can take a pie and hit Lucille Ball with a pie, and she'll accept it, and the audience will accept it. But you couldn't do that with me. You couldn't touch Gracie. When I walked out on the stage with Gracie, before I even walked out, I had to find out which way the wind is blowing so that the smoke from my cigar didn't go into Gracie's face. The audience would come up and hit me. Couldn't touch Gracie.
Did you have to do any real changes to go from one medium to the other?
No. We talked. Talked in all mediums. Radio, television, still talking.
How was that joke about the cousin named Cy who lived in Mexico?
Well, that was Jack Benny's joke.
What?
Sigh, yeah. That was pretty old. It was so old that Milton Berle wouldn't even use it.
What advice would you give to other senior citizens to seem as young as you do? Or to be as
I'll tell you how to do it. I say this all the time, and it's true. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. It's a very important line.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't get old. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. Let's say a lady is 50 years old, and she dresses like she's 50, but dresses beautifully at 50. She looks very young. But that same lady at 50, if she dresses like she's 22, she looks like she's 75. You got to dress your age. Got to look your age. Look as good as you can at your age. And how do I look? I've got makeup on. No, I haven't.
You're not in the debate.
What?
You're not in the debate.
You really smoke a lot of cigars? You don't just light it up before you come in
And
here?
10
for
or
a problem?
10 or 15 cigars a day.
Expensive cigars?
No, they fit my holder. See, an expensive cigar is tightly packed and they go out and you got to keep lighting them all the time. Well, you can't do that on the stage. You stand on the stage and keep lighting a cigar, the audience will walk out on you. So these are domestic cigars. And if I can get it into my holder at my age, it's exciting.
Mr. Burns, the fact that you smoke and drink at your age and have a good time, you think all these health things in the 80s are such a good idea?
I don't believe any of that. I just don't believe. I think the food is bad. Use a little ketchup. Doesn't hurt. But don't eat too much. Eating will kill you. Unless you get paid for eating. Nobody pays me, so I don't eat.
I think you said you started out with 2 prunes or something in the morning?
3 prunes
3 prunes. wow.
for breakfast, and 2 cups of coffee, no bread or anything like that. And for lunch, I have a cup of soup.
Let's do about 3 more questions.
Okay.
What kind of advice would you give to rising young comedians?
To get very good writers. Very important. And to stay with it if you love it. If you love it, it'll work for you. If you stay with it and you love it. Look, I stayed in show business from 7 to 27. I wasn't doing well, but I stayed with it. I was in love with what I was doing. And here I am, doing fine.
Have any regrets at all?
No. Sorry Gracie is gone, but, well, you can't do anything about that either. You know, in show business, they used to cancel your act after the first show if they didn't like you. And everybody carried their own pictures. So if they didn't like the manager would come back. If he didn't like it, give you back your pictures. You know, you were canceled. Well, that's the same thing with life. Guy knocks on your door and gives you back your pictures, and you're through. When the guy knocks at my door, I'm not going to answer.
Had you ever known any other acts that you thought would really make it and didn't? And could you ever put your finger on why did you have the success? Why did Jack Benny have the success? Why did Milton
Because
Berle?
I think, well, Milton Berle is a very fine comedian. Jack Benny was a great comedian. You're talking about the greats. Jack Benny fooled everybody. Jack Benny on the stage looks like he was a little timid man. Well, he wasn't. He was a giant up there. Those pauses and those things that he did where he touched his face and all that stuff, you know. And Jack Benny was great on the stage, but very unfunny off. But the stuff that he did off, he didn't do on.
I had read that when you were doing your radio shows that if you were not in your regular studio on the road, stopped into the studio, one of the network stations, that you and Gracie were kind of secretive. You didn't like to have any of the stage hands around and liked to work behind closed doors, more or less. The reasons for that?
Well, I don't remember that. I think you got the story a little mixed up. When we started with Guy Lombardo's band, and Guy Lombardo that was our first job. And Guy Lombardo, they advertised the show, 30 minutes of the sweetest music this side of heaven. Well, when they put us on the Guy Lombardo show for 5 or 6 minutes, the music would have to keep playing while we're on, you know, because you couldn't break that up. I think that's what you were talking about. Yeah, so the music played, and finally we stayed on the show. We were booked for 2 weeks, and then they booked us for 4 weeks, and then finally we took the show over, and Lombardo got another show. And then we didn't need the music to interrupt us. Want me to sign these?
Yeah, would you?
Okay, sure.